This is Hidden Killers with Tony Brueski. Here now, Tony Brueski.
The story of Austin Drummond starts where humanity usually ends. It really does. And this story just gets crazier by the day. Inside a small Tennessee home that turned into a killing ground. Remember the story from a couple of months ago? 4 people dead, a mother, her daughter, her teenage son, and her daughter's boyfriend, and a baby left behind, sitting in a car seat in some stranger's yard 40 miles away. No note, no reason, just a living reminder that evil doesn't always vanish with the trigger pull. Sometimes drives away and leaves a baby behind like trash. That's the story. Remember this? That one. Yeah, this guy. Austin Drummond. He was the one who was missing for quite a while. They finally found him in the wilderness. Well, let's give you an update on what the hell's going on over here. And while we do, in the comments section, let me know your thoughts. Give me your feedback. Hit subscribe, too, while we're at it. Police called it one of the worst crime scenes they'd ever seen. Can you imagine? I mean, being an officer, having to walk into that, yes, it's what you signed up for. Yes, you're going to have that in your career, but this is going to be one that's going to stick with you. But what sticks isn't just the blood, it's the psychology behind it, because Drummond isn't your average killer. He's not your cliche neighbor who seemed quiet until he snapped. He's a career criminal, a man who's been orbiting violence since he was barely old enough to vote. 10 years in prison for robbery, released in 2024, on bond for attempted murder, and still somehow walking free. Long enough to wipe out nearly an entire family. That's not coincidence. That's a system working exactly how it's supposed to. Not how it shouldn't, but how it does. And again, of course, finally free. It should be like, yes, of course, finally free. Not somehow finally free, of course, finally free. Because our system lets these people go over and over and over. We're like, how did this happen? It shouldn't work that way. Shouldn't? Yeah, it shoulda, woulda, coulda, Well, then change the system. And we need to stop being shocked when this stuff happens. Because it's working as designed, kids. It is working as designed. You want it fixed? Then change it. When people finally found him after a week-long manhunt, he was hiding behind a pool house covered in sweat, surrounded by weapons, camouflage, empty eyes, a dull gaze of someone who's either lost touch with reality or thinks he's starring in his own version of The Fugitive. That guy. There's always that question with men like this. Is it delusion? Is it performance? Because the line between insanity and manipulation gets blurry fast when you're staring down a death penalty. Let's be clear. This isn't a man born from nowhere. He's a product of bad wiring, bad choices, and a system that let him stay dangerous. You don't graduate to quadruple homicide overnight. You build up to it. You learn that you can hurt people and get away with it. You learn that violence buys control, that fear buys space. You learn that empathy is optional. And by the time you're 28, your brain's not fighting those urges anymore. It's feeding on them. He told people he was connected, claimed gang ties, claimed he was an informant. He built a myth around himself, a classic narcissist trick. When the reality's too ugly, build a better fiction. But every self-made myth comes with an audience, and Drummond's audience was law enforcement. The problem is, it's hard to tell if he believes his own stories. And that's what makes him interesting, because people like him don't just lie to others. They lie to themselves until the lie becomes the only thing keeping them upright. 4 people dead, 11 gunshots, and one of them, tarps covering bodies in the woods. That's not random rage, that's overkill. It's what happens when anger becomes theater. It's the performance of dominance. You're not just killing them, you're making a statement. You're saying, I control who lives and dies. That's not insanity, that's ego. That's the dark, toxic self-worship of someone who thinks they've been wronged by the universe and are finally collecting payment. Drummond's girlfriend was the sister of some of the victims. That's how close this got. It wasn't strangers. This was family, or at least people he knew through whatever twisted version of love he may have in his empty, soulless body. If that word even means anything to him. Psychologists talk about narcissistic injury. When someone with that kind of ego feels humiliated, betrayed, or exposed, that rage follows. It isn't just anger. It's annihilation. You stop seeing people as people. They become symbols, obstacles, threats to your self-image. And what's easier than eliminating threats? Pull a trigger, end of story. Right, Austin? Except he didn't. He just rewrote it. Because this isn't the story of a man who snapped. It's a story of a man who kept escalating. And when the world didn't stop him, he took that as proof that he was untouchable. And now, sitting in prison, he's still playing the role. Narcotics found in his cell, covering his door in paper and feces, like you do. Acting out like a teenager who knows attention is his only power left. That's not a psychotic break. That's control. That's manipulation in its purest form. You can't rule the world anymore, but you can still rule your cell. We love to talk about killers like they're puzzles to solve. Trauma here, upbringing there. But sometimes there's no grand Freudian revelation waiting under the rock. Sometimes the truth is simpler and colder. Some people just like control. And when life takes control away, they'll burn everything to the ground, including the people closest to them, just to feel powerful again. We see it time and time again. Look at the Murdaugh case. Drummond's behavior fits the pattern of psychopath more than schizophrenic. Psychopaths don't hallucinate, they strategize. They mimic emotions. They fake tears in court. They smirk when the cameras finish. They live for the moment someone says, "He looks so calm, it's chilling." Because that's how they win. They know the system loves spectacle. They spent their entire lives learning how to exploit it. He was caught with Suboxone, narcotics used to treat opioid addiction, which tells you something else. He's not just addicted to drugs, he's addicted to chaos, to being the center of his own storm. You take away his freedom, he'll find a new way to prove he's untouchable. Drugs in jail, paper on the floor, feces as protest. It's disgusting, yes, but it's also revealing. It's not madness, it's strategy. It's an act designed to get a reaction, to make the people around him adapt to his rules, not the other way around. And let's not forget, this isn't his first rodeo. A decade of prison time doesn't turn someone into a philosopher. It just sharpens the tools they already had. Manipulation, rage, control. He didn't come out reformed. He came out rehearsed, more polished, more dangerous. Men like this don't find God in prison. They find leverage. They learn how to play the system like a chessboard. Piece by piece. The prosecution says they'll seek the death penalty, and that sounds right. But don't kid yourself, he'll love that. The trial, the cameras, the headlines, the idea that his name might outlive the people he killed, he'll soak it up like oxygen. Because for people like Drummond, even infamy is validation. They can't be loved. They want to be feared. And if they can't be feared, they'll be infamous. That's what narcissistic collapse looks like when you give it a gun. And now sitting behind bars, the man still thinks he's writing the script. He's not losing control. He's performing loss. Every outburst, every smirk, every bizarre act, it's theater. He wants the guards to talk. He wants the psychologist to speculate. He wants his name to live rent-free in the minds of people who should have forgotten him already. It's not that he's delusional. It's that he's addicted to attention, and attention is the only drug the system can confiscate. What drives someone to that point? Usually it's a lifetime of entitlement mixed with rage. You grow up learning that other people's pain is negotiable, that rules are for everyone but you, and that the consequences are temporary. You learn to fake remorse when it keeps you out of trouble. You learn to perform empathy when it buys you trust. And when those tricks stop working, the mask slips. Underneath is something primal, a deep, furious need to control the narrative again. The thing about psychopaths is that they don't really break in prison. They adapt. They charm, they manipulate, they scheme, they use other inmates as pawns, they bait guards, they file frivolous motions just to waste everyone's time. Every interaction is a move in a larger game of control. That's how they survive. That's how they thrive. That's exactly what Drummond's doing right now, because chaos is his currency. He'll probably start building a new mythology around himself. That's what they do. I was wrong. The media lied. There's more to the story. You heard it before. The self-styled victim of a corrupt world. The misunderstood anti-hero. It's all part of the performance. It's not remorse. It's rebranding. But underneath the noise, the facts stay the same. 4 people are dead, a baby left behind, and a man who refuses to act like a human. Being given, or being, like a man refusing to act like a human being, even after the blood dries. There's no redemption arc waiting for him. There's no tragic backstory that makes sense of this. The only thing left is accountability and a justice system that finally needs to stop mistaking spectacle for sanity. What makes a story so infuriating is that it's not unique. We've seen it before. Men who walk free when they shouldn't, only to leave a trail of corpses behind them. And when it happens, the question always becomes, why didn't anyone stop him? But we already know the answer. We did. We just didn't mean it. The next time you hear someone talk about rehabilitation, remember this. Not everyone wants to be rehabilitated. Some people just want another chance to prove they can beat the system. And when you give them that chance, they don't change. They reload. Drummond is a man who's lived his life as both predator and performer. And like most predators, he's smart enough to know that confusion is his best camouflage. One day he's the grieving boyfriend. The next, he's the gangster. The next, he's a victim of his own demons. And through all of it, the constant remains control. Who has it, who doesn't, and how he can take it back even behind bars. The idea that this man might even breathe free air again is terrifying, but not impossible. Trials fall apart, juries sympathize, systems break. But if you strip away the headlines, the interviews, the speculation, what's left is a man who saw other human beings as tools, props, and eventually obstacles. And when they stopped serving his narrative, he ended them. That's not insanity, that's intention. The irony is that the only innocent person left from that day is the baby. The one too young to understand what happened. Too young to know that their first act of survival came from being abandoned. Someday that child will grow up to read about this. They'll have to make peace with the truth that most of us never could, that their entire life exists because someone decided to leave them behind. And the man responsible, he'll still be playing the role, still performing, still trying to convince everyone who will listen that he's more than a killer, that he's misunderstood, some sort of genius somewhere behind those eyes. But there isn't. There's just another manipulator who ran out of lies and bullets at the same time. We can analyze him forever, call it antisocial personality disorder, narcissistic collapse, psychopathy. But at the end of the day, it all circles back to one word: choice. He chose to kill, he chose to lie, he chose to perform instead of feel. He chose himself every time until there was no one left to choose him back. It's not madness, it's who he is. And as the days turn into weeks, the weeks into years, he'll sit in that cell convincing himself he's the smartest man in the room. He'll probably cover the walls again, probably get caught with contraband again. He'll probably keep doing everything he can to make sure no one ever forgets him. Because for Austin Drummond, the worst punishment isn't death, it's obscurity. And that's exactly what's coming for him. No matter how much feces he scrapes on the walls. Your thoughts in the comments section. Love to hear them. And please hit subscribe so you don't miss our commentary and our coverage of the many cases we're watching for you right here at the Hidden Killers podcast and True Crime Today. I just dropped my pen. Oh, wait. I got it. Caught it. Ta-da! I'm Tony Brueski. We'll talk again.
Want more on this case and others? Then press subscribe now and don't miss a moment of true crime coverage from Tony Brueski and the Hidden Killers podcast.